2013 Honda Civic. Today we're not going to be talking about vacuum, or we're not going to be talking about recovery, or refilling, recharging, or leak testing. Today's subject is just going to be on condensers, and one little fact that is very misunderstood about parallel flow condensers. There's serpentine flow condensers. That'll be another video, or look it up yourself and learn something. Then you have tube and fin condensers is another common type. You have either the old style 3/8 tube and fin, or the newer was introduced to Europe and then came to America was the 6mm tube and fin. And all the way back into the late 60s or 70s there were some serpentine. They were really heavy in the 80s. Very few in existence. Now everything has gone over to parallel flow. And what do I mean by parallel flow? Most of you should be familiar with this style where it's a flat tube like this. It's not round. It's actually oval like that. And on the inside, there's actually little fins on the inside. So if you take one of these tubes and you cut them open, you would look inside and you might see 6 or 10 little fins that connect to the top and come to the bottom, and that's for more surface area. So this is an original Honda key-in condenser. This is an aftermarket. One of the differences, very little difference on this one. Some of them it's really drastic. When you get real cheap aftermarket condensers, it's really bad. This is not as bad. So this one here has 38 refrigerant passages. This one here, aftermarket, has 36 refrigerant passages. And here's another place they cheat you a little bit, and it could be really bad sometimes. This is not the worst one I've ever seen. This one here, if you measure 1 inch, you have 16 fins in between the tube passages of refrigerant. On this one here, you have 14 fins for 1 inch on the tube passages. Remember, aluminum costs money, and if you're in some other part of the world, aluminio. But aluminum costs money, so if I could cheat you out of 2 fins per inch going over 28 inches, and I do that 38 times, I just save money selling you a condenser, and I just have a higher profit margin. Then again, every tube going across for that refrigerant passage tube costs money. So if I could cheat you out of 2 tubes and put 2 tubes less on my condenser, I could make a higher profit margin. This is one of the difference between the aftermarket, not all aftermarket, but some aftermarket. Some, I've seen this as low as 12 fins per inch, and say you would have 32 tubes going across where the original was 38. On cold weather, you won't see a difference, but when the customer goes to hot weather, you will have lack of cooling and real high head pressure. Another discussion for another day, and if it's an electric car, it's even worse. Your gas mileage goes way down on electric cars, and you see your HV battery draining when you use the real poor quality aftermarket condensers compared to original OEM. That's another video and another topic. So how does this work? So here's your larger diameter inlet pipe. This comes from the condenser. Down here is your, what they call a liquid line. It's not always a full liquid. It has some air bubbles in it. Sometimes it's full liquid and sometimes it's not. You cannot go by air bubbles. Never judge your system by air bubbles. So here's your liquid line, high pressure. Your high pressure discharge from the compressor that comes in at the top. Here's the fittings where they attach to. So on this one here, I already have it marked with pen to make it easy for you to see. The vapor high pressure goes into this passage right here, and it goes inside there. Let's see if we can get lucky enough. We might be able to see tube in there. Okay, no, on this one it looks like we will not get lucky. Cannot see on this one. Okay, so all this goes in here, high pressure vapor. This is a very hot gas going in. we have 18 coolant passages, and I marked them. I counted down to 18. And at 18, you hit this little metal disc right here. That little metal disc inside is actually a physical barrier. The refrigerant cannot go down. So as this hot, high pressure gas comes into this chamber right here in this manifold header part right here, up to this point, it is forced to travel on these 18 tubes going parallel across, going through these 18 passages. And as you see here, I kind of did one every other, so you could see that this is the breakoff point of 18 tubes traveling in this direction. Then you come over here where I have the arrows, and it fills up this little chamber and it starts going down. Now as it goes down, we have another physical block right here again. So where I have that outline in the black, there's actually a disc inside there that blocks the refrigerant flow passage. So this little area has 10 refrigerant passages going across in this direction. So we have 10 of them, and again, I marked it out so you could see with the black dots in between that. The refrigerant flow is going in this direction now. You only have 10 passages of refrigerant that are cooling down. Now every time it makes a pass, it is cooling down a little bit more, and it's starting to condensate the refrigerant. It's starting to condense. It's getting to it's approaching its dew point where it's flashing off from a hot gas, and it's starting to get some liquid combined with the hot vapor. So by the time it got down here, there's a little bit of liquid contained within this hot gas. Now as you can see down here again, as I have the arrows pointing down, it drops down again. Now it's 5 tubes. Here's the physical barrier inside that blocks it off and doesn't let it go down anymore. And now it's going to take a passage of 5 tubes. And as you can see, I did make that nice little dotted thing. Oh yeah, you kind of see a little bit. So now 5 tubes are going in this direction towards the bottom of the condenser. We're getting into the region that is approaching the subcooling region. But right now it's still a vapor, and with a little bit more liquid in it, and it's cooler at this point. So if you physically actually took a thermometer and you touched this tube up here, then compared it to the temperature of this tube right here, you would see a temperature drop. And then if you came down again, after it came to this side over here to the 10 tube, the temperature would have dropped a little bit more. Then it comes down, drops into the 5, and it comes over to this side. If you took the temperature right here, you would see the temperature has dropped more. Now this is where things get different. On this particular model, you have an integrated filter dryer. Not all models have this. Sometimes they're tin can outside, and their arrangement might be different. You could have a single pass condenser, a 2-pass condenser, a 3-pass condenser, and here we have kind of 4 passes. So we just went 1, 2, 3, and if you look really carefully, I have the arrows of these 5 refrigerant passages going, and you see the arrow is pointing up because now the arrow is going into the receiver dryer filter. It serves 3 functions. It's a receiver, so it holds a storage of refrigerant, and some of it will be in a liquid form, and it will hold a certain quantity depending on the temperature pressure relationship. Dryer, it has a desiccant material in there. You know, when you get your vitamins and it has the little package that says do not eat, that is a dryer. It's a substance that removes moisture. So then you have the dryer, but then in the bottom there's actually usually a little screen, and it will have a filter. So any tiny amount of debris that made it through here, the filter does a pretty good job of getting large particles out of there, enough that to clog the expansion valve and filter it out. And now you see these other little lines I drew. Here's the liquid coming out. Now the liquid, or almost liquid, there's still air inside of it. It's not a pure liquid. This doesn't always do the perfect job. Supposedly it's a liquid, not always. There are states of pressure temperature relationship where it could kind of still be bubbling. So supposedly in an ideal world, we would nearly have a liquid coming out of here. And as you can see, now we have 5 tubes, and I have the arrows. I have 5 arrows with the passages of 5 tubes that are supposedly liquid in an ideal world, textbook perfect world, which doesn't exist all the time. And it comes out, these 5 tubes come into here and come out of this port. Now, if this was an ideal world, theoretically, talking about a book in a lab, in all the perfect ideal conditions, we would have coming out of the condenser right here at this point where I have my temperature sensor, this supposedly would be 100% cooler liquid than the hotter vapor that came in here at the top, at this fitting. So then you have the cool, that's still hot or warm, but it's cooler than the hot discharge pressure that's coming out of here, that's a vapor. This liquid goes back and it travels. Here's the high side. It travels here. We're down to 100 microns. Yeah, we're almost in the 100 micron range. I have it on the 2 vacuum pumps. But this cool liquid travels along here and hits back up in the firewall. There's going through the dash, there's an expansion valve just before the evaporator. Now, if I had a sight glass here, it might be clear, but then sometimes, in some conditions, on some days, it might have a few bubbles in it. Even if I fill it 100% full, there's conditions where you could have bubbles in it. Don't listen to the guys who say, oh, when you have bubbles, just keep filling up when you're full. Let's not go there. That's a different discussion. That's what hacks do, butchers. That's what ignorant people do. Okay, so getting back to this. Here you go. OEM aftermarket. 36 tubes on this condenser, 38 tubes on this condenser. In 1 inch, the little fins in between. 14 fins in 1 inch. On the original equipment manufacturer, 16 fins per inch. How many flows is this particular condenser on this model? It will be different on other cars. They are not all the same. We have 18 tubes of refrigerant passages going in this direction. It drops down, comes down into 10 tubes. 10 tubes are going back towards the passenger side. It drops down, it's going into 5 tubes. 5 tubes are going across this way, working their way up into the filter dryer receiver. They're getting filtered, it's getting dried, and it's a receiver to hold a quantity of refrigerant. When your expansion valve doesn't need all the refrigerant because it's a cooler day, it will actually condense inside here, back up, and it will hold a little bit more liquid inside here. Then it comes out and it makes its patches to these 5, and it goes back over and it comes out as, in an ideal world, supposedly a liquid. You notice I keep stressing that. It is not always a liquid in all conditions. And then it goes out back to the expansion valve to feed your evaporator. We are just dwelling on condensers. So that is about as basic I can make this condenser under these conditions for this vehicle. That will be different for maybe another one that has a receiver mounted as a cam somewhere else on the car. Serpentine is different, and tuber fin are a little bit different. Tuber fin can either be put in parallel flows or a combination of parallel and serpentine, or just strictly tubes that go in a serpentine all the way down to the bottom. Different manufacturers will do different things. If you want to see some really detailed pictures of failures and plug condensers, I did a little bit of channel work on Prius Chat. If you look at Prius Chat, I have a photo album under my name of Lech Auto Air Conditioning. Not conditioning because there was not enough room for me to put my whole entire business name on Prius chat. So it's Lech Auto Air Conditioning. And go into my photo album and you will find a lot more discussions with pictures on different kind of failures, condensers, using refrigerant oils, refrigerant dyes, leak detectors, recovery systems, and different problems with recharging that people commonly have. That'll be another source of information with very detailed close-up pictures. So I believe that's it for today. This vehicle, I believe, is ready for me to recharge. Yes, we're down to 96 microns, which is more than enough. I dried out this system enough. I was having a hard time because this was open for a week, and had to use some nitrogen flush and triple flush and evacuate with nitrogen 3 times, and we're good to go. And maybe I'll throw in a little bonus here. The field piece, for you guys who haven't seen my other videos, software goes with the field piece temperature sensors. I have one here, and then there's the other field piece temperature sensor at the duct outlet. I could either use the Bluetooth wireless ones, or I use the wired ones right to my manifold. And then there's Bluetooth pressure transducers in here. All go to the software to give you a readout of your supply temperature that will be coming out of the dash, your return temperature, the temperature of the air that's actually entering right here, going through the hole that goes and feeds your evaporator under the dash, the temperature of the refrigerant inside the line for your vapor, the temperature of the refrigerant inside your liquid line, combined with the pressures, will give you your superheat and your subcooling, your wet bulb, your relatively humidity, your dew point, your empathy, your liquid saturation, your vapor saturation. And if you want a little bit more, do some self-study and learn a little bit more. You do not charge a system by pressures. You do not charge a system by temperatures. End of story. See you guys all on the next video.